Today on our 2018 Jeep Cherokee, we're going to take a look at and show you how to install the Roadmaster 7-wire to 6-wire Flexo-Coil Diode Wiring Kit for towed vehicles. Part number is RM-15267. Now this wiring kit's going to be the perfect solution for towing your vehicle behind your motorhome and having the appropriate signals on the back. We've got our Flexo-Coil here. Passes those signals through, so whether we're hitting the brakes in our coach, we have on our running lights or our turn signals, that's going to show up on the back of the vehicle. The Flexo-Coil design will expand and contract, as you can see, so we won't have to worry about it hanging down on the ground. But as we make our initial pull away from our vehicle when it's connected, it's going to extend to the exact length that we need. Now the benefit of a wiring system that has diodes included will be that those are going to isolate our RV from our vehicle, so we won't have any type of backfeeding. We can take a closer look at them now. So now what we've been able to do using our diode is take the signal from our RV, it comes in here, and the factory signal from our vehicle. That is then going to be converted to a single output. So whether the signal comes from the RV, it's allowed to pass directly through and go out and light our bulb, where it comes from the car, it's able to go directly through and light our bulb. The important part of the diode is it prevents any kind of backfeeding. So anytime the RV is putting a signal in, it can never reverse and go into our car's wiring system. Or the opposite of that, as our car is putting signal in, it's never going to be able to reverse and run back up the wiring towards our RV, so we won't have to worry about any kind of backfeeding in either direction. Now the thing I like about the diode wiring kit from Roadmaster as compared to some of the other diode systems that are available is that our diodes are individual. So if this diode were to fail, we can simply unplug it, place a new diode in, and plug it back in. With some of the other diode kits available, you would have to, if that were to happen, replace the entire system. And of course, any diode kit is much better than a non-diode kit. If you're just tapping into your wires and running the signal, you run risk of that backfeeding, which could mess up either vehicle. So definitely go with the diode kit, and the Roadmaster is one that's very easy to change if there is an issue down the road. Now we're going to give you a really good example of exactly what the brake light relay is going to do in this application. So let's say we turn on our left turn signal at a stoplight to make a left turn, but we also need to apply our brakes. You can see how that brake overrides the turn signal. Now if we do the same thing, but we turn on our running lights, since that's our trigger for our relay, and turn on our left turn signal, you can see as we apply our brakes, that blinker continues to flash. That's going to keep us compliant with all state laws. Now your wiring kit's going to be very important as part of your flat tow setup, but you do want to keep in mind this isn't the only component you're going to need. Typically, things required for a complete flat tow setup are going to be your base plate. That's what your tow bar will attach to. You're going to need your tow bar. You're going to need some sort of vehicle wiring kit and also a braking system. Now the best time to get our wiring ran up to the front of the vehicle is going to be when we have the fascia off of our car. We're also going to be adding a charge line kit. We're just going to tape that off to our wiring. That's going to provide a trickle charge to our battery to keep it charged up while we are flat towing the Cherokee. That part number is RM-156-25. I'm going to be combining this with the tow vehicle wiring that we're going to be putting in. So we'll just tape it a couple times to that. That way we can just run it as one piece. Now the first 12 inches, 18 inches I like to tape up just to keep everything pretty nice looking behind the grill of the vehicle. We'll just run that down beside our radiator. And then in behind our bumper here. That'll have it over here, so when we put our fascia back on, we'll just pull that through so our wires will be sticking out. Now you just want to put a couple of zip ties on your wires there, just to keep everything from moving around. And of course avoid any sharp edges or heat sources that might cause damage. With our fascia back on the car, we're going to start working on getting our plug installed. Brought our wiring through the front. We need to clear out an area here in our grill that's going to allow for the connector to be stuck into it. We're going to flush mount it right up here on the grill surface. So this area right here, I'm going to remove this X essentially, see what kind of room that gives us. To do this, you'll want to use a sharp knife. Just go with the contour of it. Now it looks like once we have that cut out, if you'll just soften those edges a little bit, our plug's going to fit in there really well. Now I'll show you a couple of the brackets that we've got that we can use to install this. Now, this is the bracket that comes with your kit. You'll notice I've just cut that 90-degree off, and that's going to be about 2.5 inches from the bottom straight up. I've used another one. This is part number RM-910030, which is going to be very similar to the bracket that comes with the kit. It's just going to be straight, and again, you'll cut that off about 2.5 inches. One of these is going to go in behind our grill, so we're going to slide our wire through the hole in it. Bring that through. We got the one we're going to place on the outside here, so let's get that up there. Just kind of poke it in, let it sit there for a minute. Then we've got our rubber boot. We need to slide that on. We'll leave us with our wiring, and if you want to, you can just separate that by pulling them apart. And with a pair of wire strippers, we'll strip back all 5 of the wires. 4 are going to be with your diode wiring kit. The additional red wire is going to be for our vehicle charge line kit. That's something we do recommend installing on the Cherokee because it has the tendency for the battery to drain while you're hauling it. And we'll start by looking at the front of our plug. Then we want to spin that around so we're looking at the back of it. The one we have right here on top, that's labeled TM. That's going to be for the trailer marker lights, which is our brown wire. So we'll want to loosen the set screw there. Place our wire in and then snug it down. We don't have to over tighten it. We don't want to damage the wire, but we want it to get a good hold. Now if we go counterclockwise, the next one's going to be our white wire for ground. And for your charge line kit, which again we recommend doing that, we're going to use our center pin. And then continuing to go counterclockwise from the white, we're going to have our left turn signal, which is our yellow wire. And then our next one there, again going counterclockwise, that's going to be our green wire for our right turn signal. Now once you've tested everything and you've confirmed that all of your signals are working properly, we strongly recommend using some silicone sealant and filling in around all of our connectors here. What this does is it's going to give us a barrier and prevent any water or moisture from getting in here, which can lead to corrosion. Once we have that seal, we'll bring our boot down and around, and I like to backfill it just a little bit as well. Alright, and that should be a connection we never have to worry about again. And we'll bring out one of our mounting brackets. We place just like that. That's going to give us a lot of additional support, kind of dissipate the energy out over a greater area. We place through a machine screw with a little flathead washer on it. And on the back side, we'll bring our other plate down and on, and we're going to use a little nylon lock nut on the back side. Let's do the same for our other hole. Now we'll just use our 3/8 socket, Phillips screwdriver, and get that tightened down. Now with our plug installed in most of our typical applications, we're just going to run our wire down along the frame rail to the rear of the vehicle. But something we need to do with our particular setup, and if you're going to be putting a brake light relay in, something you're going to need to do, is to tap in to the brown wire here. That's what's going to trigger that relay to turn on and turn off. So let's get this separated, and I'll show you how to splice in a wire that we can easily connect to. What we'll do to separate it is use a little fine screwdriver, and we want to go right in between those 2 wires, being careful not to damage them. Push our screwdriver in. You can see we've got a gap there now. We'll just pull those apart. And we'll do the same thing for our white wire there. You may be able to just grab them and pull them. If not, work it with your screwdriver just a little bit. Now I'm going to use a little bit of 16 gauge wire that we've got here and make our splice. So we'll take our brown wire. We're going to cut it, maybe take out just about a 1/4 inch or so. We'll strip both sides of that back. We'll also strip our extra wire back. Now this is available on our website if you don't have it at home. Part number is 16-1-1. I'm going to take those two, my new wire and my existing wire, and I'm going to twist those together, just like that. Place on DW05745 heat shrink butt connector. That crimp down really well, and we'll do the same thing for our other side. And this will act as our trigger lead for our relay. Now to shrink these down, you can use a lighter, you can use a heat gun or a little mini torch. Just provide a little bit of heat at a time. You'll see it start to shrink. And when it's fully shrank down, it almost looks like your wire magnifies, kind of like it gets bigger. Then there'll be a little clear gel that comes out of the end. Now, to keep everything looking nice, we're going to run some tape around our wiring here. You could also use wire loom if you decide. And that's the only real change we're going to make to the routing diagram that comes with the kit. So at this point, I'm going to run it down underneath the battery, start heading towards the back so we can connect to our tail lights. Now as we run our wire rearward, we want to avoid any sharp edges, heat sources, things like that, and use plenty of zip ties to keep everything nice and secure. Anywhere you have a skid plate, take advantage of it. Just run your wire over the top of it. Keep it up and out of the way. Keep it protected for you. And with our wire ram back here, you just want to secure it off. Now it's time for us to go up top. We're going to take those taillight housings out and determine which wires we'll be connecting to. And to get our housings out, we want to remove the two T30 screws that hold it in place. And we'll pull rearward on our housing. We got our plug right there. Just push down on our tab, wiggle it to separate. We'll do the same thing over on the passenger side. Now we can use a standard 12-volt tester, and we need to test to see where our signals are coming from. Now we need to find the brake signal and also the running light signal. So we'll have the running lights in the vehicle turned on. That should be our center post here closest to our clip. And off. And back on. Alright, off. So our yellow wire here on the driver's side, the white wire with the yellow stripe, that's going to be our running light signal. Now we need to test our brakes. Typically that's going to be the one located right here. Go ahead and hit the brakes. Hit the brakes again. You see it's going to give us that little pulse signal indicating that the white wire with the green stripe is going to be for the brake on the driver's side. So we've got running light and brake. Now let's go check our passenger side. Now the wire colors are different here, but it's likely these are going to be the same position. So let's test that one for our running light. Running lights, and off, back on, and off. And then brakes. Again, one more time. Alright, so here, the white wire with the light gray stripes for our running lights. The white wire with the yellow stripe, that's going to be for our brake lights. Now I'm just going to trim this back and remove this loom, give us a little bit more room to get to those wires. Now we'll come back to our 4-pole wire. We're going to start separating these. At least we want to get the white separate and the green separate. We can leave the yellow and brown connected together. Now we're going to take our white ground wire. Just need to snip that off and strip back the end of it. And to the end of that, we'll add our provided ring terminal. And we can go right up to the body metal right here. That's where we'll ground it out. So let's create our hole with the provided self-tapping screw. You want to use a 5/16" bit driver. Once your hole's created, we'll get it secure enough so you can't wiggle that terminal. Now we'll guide our yellow and brown wire up behind that tail light opening. We want to be able to pull it in so we can make our connections. Now you can use a coat hanger or a stiff piece of wire. Just pull that on up. Now once I have all my slack pulled out of my wire, I like to zip tie it off to our factory wiring. That'll just make sure we don't have any hanging down below the vehicle at any time. And we'll leave about 6 inches or so attached. Trim off our excess. And then you want to split the yellow and brown wires apart. Now let's take the extra piece of white wire that we cut off, and we're going to make a few leads to extend our factory wiring slightly. This is going to help us out a lot when it comes to connecting our diodes. Let's start with our brake wire here. That was the white one with the green stripe you see. We'll just split that. Strip back both sides of it. Now onto each side we're going to add one of our blue heat shrink butt connectors. Now we'll cut off a couple of little 6-inch pieces of the white wire. We're going to strip back the ends of that. And we'll add each of those into one of the butt connectors. Now we'll get those shrank down. Then you see both butt connectors are shrank down. That gives us our leads, so we'll be able to much more easily plug these into our diodes. We can trim them to whatever length we want. Now you'll want to go through, and we're going to repeat that process for the yellow and white wire here on the driver's side, for the yellow and white wire on the passenger side, and the gray and white wire on the passenger side. Now we'll focus on our brown wire and get it connected. Now this is the one that comes from the coach. This is the part that we've cut off. We're going to splice these together so we can get running light signals here on the driver's side and also over on the passenger side. To do that, we're just going to splice these together by twisting them and then placing on the only yellow female spade connector in the kit. Now that wire will be able to plug into one of our diodes. We're going to go on the input side. Now you remember our yellow wire, that was for our running lights, so we'll make that connection. Now to the end of this, after we strip it, we're going to add a blue female spade connector. That's all you're going to have left are going to be blue ones at this point. That crimp down, and we want that to go to the other input. Now we've got our yellow and white wire coming from the plug side, so we'll trim that, add our spade connector, and plug it into the out on our diode. Now the other end of our brown wire here, we're going to run back down. This needs to go over to the passenger side to give us the signal we need over there for running lights. Now we're ready to repeat that same process for the turn and brake that we've got coming through our yellow wire. But again, we're just going to be using all blue spade connectors. Now we're going to use this little flat sill right down here to mount our diodes in place. You want to clean that off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol to make sure the adhesive will stick to it. Now while the alcohol is evaporating, I also like to fill with silicone here, backside of the wires, and then just around the bottom edge of them here. Basically this is going to prevent moisture from getting in there, causing any corrosion issues. You just want to pull that protective cover off and get it stuck in position here. With our connections made, let's plug our housing back in, clip it back in, and re-secure it with its screws. Now the green wire and our brown jumper wire, this is the one we brought down from the top there, we want to run over to the passenger side. Then we could just repeat the same process that we did here on the driver's side over there. Now we're just going to bring it over along the wire loom here in the back side of the vehicle. Your best bet over here in the corner to avoid your exhaust is just to go right up over top of the frame rail, and we can go right up to our taillight housing. We'll get our housing back in place on this side, test out our lights. Now to test out our lighting system, we'll start by turning on the running lights. Now our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our brakes. Now on our Cherokee, we use the base plate, part number BX1136, wiring kit, part number RM15267, braking system, SM99243, and tow bar, part number BX7420. Now with everything working properly, that's going to complete our installation of the Roadmaster 7-wire to 6-wire Flexo-Coil Diode Wiring Kit, part number RM-15267 on our 2018 Jeep Cherokee.
Thanks for watching. Click the link in our description below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com. And leave us a comment if you have any questions.